Hello students, how are you doing today? In today's video, I want us to look at parallel lines and points of intersection if time will allow us. I'm straight away going to start with parallel lines. What are parallel lines? Parallel lines are lines that never meet. Parallel lines are lines that never meet. Are lines that never meet. These are lines that never meet. Diagrammatically, how do they look like? Whenever you have two lines looking like this, of course with an arrow on them, the arrow is always used to show that the two lines are parallel. So these two lines are described as parallel lines. What do we need to know about parallel lines? Their gradients will always be equal. And that is the most important thing you need to know about parallel lines. Their gradients are equal. Whenever two lines are parallel, their gradients will always be expected to be equal. I want us to consider this example. A line L1 passes through the point. A line L1 passes through the point 2, 5 and is parallel to a line L2 whose equation is y plus 3x is equals to 7. Find the equation of L1. A line L1 passes through the point 2, 5 and is parallel to a line L2 whose equation is y plus 3x is equals to 7. The question is asking you to find the equation of L1. Do take note that in this question there are two lines. There is line L1 and the question told us the point where line L1 is passing through. Then we have got a line L2 whose equation has been given. Do take note, we want to start with line L2. For line L2, the only thing we are interested in it is the gradient. But before you think of finding the gradient, the equation must be written in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. How do we achieve that? The 3x will be transferred to the other side of the equal sign. It is a rule that if a positive number crosses the equal sign, the positive number becomes a negative. So we'll have negative 3x plus 7. This negative 3 is what we refer to as the gradient. Again, do take note, the question told us that the two lines are parallel to each other. We have already mentioned that whenever two lines are parallel, their gradients will always be equal. That is to say, if line L2 is having a gradient of negative 3, then line L1 is expected to have the same gradient. So in finding the equation of line L1, we can probably say that we already have the gradient as negative 3. We will then pick the point 2, 5, accompanied by a pair of variables x, y. How then do we obtain the equation? We'll take the change in y all over the change in x, then equate it to the gradient. That should be y2, that's y, minus y1, which is 5. I'll put all over x2, which is x, I'll subtract from x1, which is negative 2. should be equal to the gradient, which we have as negative 3 all over 1. What then will we do next? We will cross multiply. The 1 will be multiplied by y minus 5 equals the negative 3 will be multiplied by x minus 2. Let's multiply out and see what we're getting. 1 times y will give us y. Then 1 times negative 5 will give us negative 5. Equals negative 3 times x is negative 3x. A negative times a negative will give us a positive. The 5 will then cross to the other side of the equal sign, so that we'll be having y is equal to negative 3x plus 11. This becomes the equation of line L1. Just in case you haven't followed what I've done there, I'm considering giving you another example just to make the concept well understood. Let's consider this example. Let's consider this as an example. A line L passes through the point. A line L passes through the point 1, negative 4 and is parallel to another line P and is parallel to another line P whose equation is 2y minus 3x is equals to 7. You are asked to find the equation of line L. Obtain the equation of line L. How do we go about this one? A line L passes through the point 1, negative 4 and is parallel to another line P whose equation is 2y minus 3x is equals to 7. The equation is asking us to obtain the equation of line L. How will we obtain the equation of L? Do take note that in this question we have got two lines. There is line L and this line P. How are the two lines relating to each other? The two lines are parallel to each other. Like we already mentioned, whenever two lines are parallel, their gradients will always be equal. So what do we need from line P? From line P, the only thing you need from it is the gradient. Let's take line P. What is the equation of line P? It is 2y minus 3x is equal to 7. We will take it, then write it in the form of y is equal to mx plus c. That will mean the 3x will cross over to the other side, leaving us with the 2y is equal to 3x plus 7. What will follow? We are going to divide everything by 2. Put this one over 2, this one over 2, and this one here all over 2. So that what we have? Y is equal to 3 over 2 of x plus 7 over 2. From that equation, like we already agreed, that number sitting in the place of the m will always be the gradient. In this particular case, the gradient of the line is taken as 3 over 2. Do take note, that is the gradient of line P. So what will be the gradient of line L? Remember that the two lines are parallel to each other. The two lines being parallel to each other would mean that if line P is having a gradient of 3 over 2, then line L is expected to have the same gradient. We have already agreed that whenever two lines are parallel to each other, they will always have equal gradients. So line L will have the same gradient as line P. Do remember, line P is having a gradient of 3/2. So line L is expected to have the same gradient. So how will you find the gradient of line L? To find the gradient of, not the gradient, sorry, but the equation. How will you obtain the equation? We'll then take the point 1, -4, accompanied by a pair of variables x, y. Then we'll take y2 minus y1, which is again a negative. Then put all over x minus 1 is equals to a gradient of 3/2. We will then cross multiply. But before that is done, why don't we first combine these two signs into one sign? This will become y plus 4 all over x minus 1 is equal to 3/2. We will then cross multiply. What is 2 times y? That will give us 2y. What is 2 times 4? That will give us 8. Equals 3 times x should give us 3x. Then 3 times -1 should give us -3. The 8 will then cross over to the other side of the equal sign, leaving us with the 2y is equal to 3x minus 3 minus 8. And -3 minus 8 should then give us 2y is equal to 3x minus 11. This becomes the equation of line P. That would become the equation of our line P. Taking us to the next subtopic. And the next subtopic in this case will be point of intersection. Point of intersection. Let us start by defining the statement point of intersection. What do we mean exactly whenever we talk about a point of intersection? Let's start by looking at it from the grammatical perspective. What is the grammatical meaning of the word to intersect? Grammatically speaking, to intersect means to meet. So therefore, a point of intersection should be a point where two lines are meeting, or a point where two lines join. So what is a point of intersection? Like we've said, to intersect, grammatically, to intersect means to meet. We can talk about the word to join, coming together, converging, and so forth and so on. So what would you say a point of intersection is then? A point of intersection. A point of intersection is a point where two or more lines meet. A point of intersection is a point where two or more lines meet. So the key question should be, how do we obtain a point of intersection? Take note. A point of intersection. A point of intersection is obtained by solving two equations simultaneously. A point of intersection is obtained by solving two equations simultaneously. I do want to assume that my students know clearly what to mean whenever we talk about simultaneous equations. Let's not go into that discussion right now, we'll do it in a question. I want us to consider this example. A line L whose equation is y is equals to 2x plus 1. A line L whose equation is y is equals to 2x plus 1 intersects a line L2. Intersects a line L2, or let's talk about a line P whose equation is 2y is equals to 3x plus 4. Intersects a line L2, a line P whose equation is 2y is equals to 3x plus 4 at a point T. Determine the coordinate of T. Determine the coordinate of T, where T is a point where line L and line P are intersecting. In this question, do take note, the key word here is intersecting. These two lines are intersecting. So basically, what is the question asking of you? The question is asking you to obtain a point of intersection. How do you find a point of intersection? We have already agreed that a point of intersection is obtained by solving two equations simultaneously. In order to find a point of intersection, the student will be required to solve two equations simultaneously. So, how then are we going to find the point of intersection of these two lines? To obtain the point of intersection of these two lines, the student is just required to have knowledge of how to solve simultaneous equations. Because you've agreed, the point of intersection will be obtained by solving the two equations simultaneously. So the student will be required to solve these two equations simultaneously. How then do we do that? We will take the first equation. What is our first equation? It is y minus 2x is equals to 1. Allow me to bring the 2x to this other side of the equal sign. If the 2x crosses to this other side of the equal sign, the 2x will become a negative. As for the other equation, again allow me to carry the 3x to this other side of the equal sign. If the 3x crosses to this other side, the 3x will again become a negative. Please do take note, carrying the 2x over and carrying the 3x over is an optional step. It is not compulsory. That is an optional step. I've just decided to go for that to make it look like the normal simultaneous equations we know of every day. But please do take note, transferring the 2x over and transferring this 3x over is an optional step you can decide to ignore. So what do we have here? These are what we call simultaneous equations. There are a number of methods of solving simultaneous equations, but in this particular case, I'm going to use a method called elimination method. I will use a method we refer to as elimination method. When using this method to solve simultaneous equation, a student is required to either start by making the values of y to be the same or the values of x to be the same. In this particular case, I'll want to start by making the values of y to be the same. How do we make the values of y to be the same? I will swap the coefficients. Swapping the coefficients means the 2 which is down will be brought up, and the 1 which is up will be brought down. It is generally a law of algebra that the absence of a number here will always mean 1. So if there is no number here, the student is always required to take the number there as 1. And that's what I mean by swapping the coefficients. The 2 would go up, then the 1 which is here would come down. We will then multiply out. What is 2 times y? That should give us 2y. What is 2 times 2x? That will give us 4x. And 2 times 1 would give us 2. Which will then bring us to the lower equation. What will be 1 multiplied by 2y? That will be 2y. And 1 times negative 3x will remain to be negative 3x. And 1 times 4 will remain to be 4. The two equations will then be subtracted in order to eliminate the y. So what will be 2y minus 2y? They will go, or they will cancel out. What will be negative 4x minus negative 3x? We'll give the answer to that one later. Equals 2 minus 4 should give us negative 2. So what will we have here? This will be negative 4x. A negative and a negative should come together into a positive. Is equal to negative 2. What is negative 4 plus 3? That should give us negative x. Because negative 4 plus 3 should give us negative 1. Is equal to negative 2. The negatives will then cancel out. The value of x in that case becomes 2. Once we obtain the value of x, getting the value of y should be easy because you only need to substitute the value of 2 in either of these two equations. Allow me to go for the first one. This will be y minus 2. Rather than putting x, I will substitute the 2 which I found as the value of x is equal to 1. What will be 2 times 2? 2 times 2 will be 4. Should be equal to 1. The 4 will then cross to the other side of the equal sign. The value of y in this particular case will then become 5. So what would we say is the coordinate of t? T will then be 2, 5. Do you remember? We got the x as 2 and the value of y as 5. That becomes the point of intersection of line L and line P. Just in case there is a part of this which is not making sense, I'm going to take you through another example. I want us to consider this example. I want us to consider this example. 2 lines L1 and L2 intersect at a point P. L1 passes through the points -4, 0 and 0, 6. Given that L2 has the equation. Given that L2 has the equation y is equals to 2x minus 2. Find by calculation. Find by calculation. calculation the coordinate of P. Find by calculation the coordinate of P. I want us to read the question together for purposes of better understanding. What is the question telling us? Two lines L1 and L2 intersect at a point P. We have already said a point of intersection is a point where two lines meet. So two lines L1 and L2 intersect at a point P. L1 passes through the points this one and this one. Given that L2 has the equation this, find by calculation the coordinate of P. Do remember that P is a point of intersection. What do we do? We are going to start by finding the equation of L1. We will start our journey by obtaining the equation of L1. Unlike the previous question, this time round, the question did not give us the equation of line L1. But the information we have here is adequate enough for us to obtain it, even though we weren't given. So how do we obtain the equation? Remember, we were told that line L1 passes through the point negative 4, 0, and again passes through the point 0, 6. We will then obtain the equation of this line. How do we find the equation of this line? We will begin by getting the gradient, which is obtained by taking y2 minus y1. That should be 6 minus 0, which will put all over x2 minus x1, which will be 0 minus negative 4. In the numerator, we will obtain 6. While for the denominator, we will obtain what result? 4. And 6 divided by 4 should give us 3 all over 2 as the gradient. The question should then be, how will we obtain the equation? We will pick one of these 2 points. Allow me to go for the point negative 4, 0, accompanied by a pair of variables x, y. So how will we find the equation? We'll take y, subtract 0, then put all over x plus 4 is equal to 3 all over 2. We will then cross multiply. So the 2 will be multiplied by y minus 0, then the 3 will be multiplied by x plus 4. 2 times y will give us 2y, and 2 times 0 will give us 0. We can ignore the 0, equals 3 times x will give us 3x, and 3 times 4 will give us 12. This is the equation of L1. Please do take note. How then are we going to obtain the point of intersection? We will pick the equation of line L1, which is 2y is equal to 3x plus 12. But allow me to bring the 3x over. If the 3x is going to cross over, do remember I said that is an optional step. That is an optional step. What do we do? Getting right again. This is 2y. Allow me to carry the 3x over to become negative 3x is equal to 12. Then for the first equation, I will have y, carry the 2x over, minus 2x is equal to negative 2. Do remember, as for line L2, the equation was given here. For line L2, the equation was given, and that is what I'm using here. So what do? We will solve these two equations simultaneously. I am still going to use elimination method. How does the method work? You will be required to swap the coefficients of these values, of the y. So what is this coefficient? 2. I'll bring it down. What is this coefficient? 1. I'll bring it up. So that what is 1 times 2y? That would give us 2y. What is 1 times negative 3x? That would give us negative 3x. Then 1 times 12 would give us 12. Then 2 times y would give us 2y. 2 times 2x would give us negative 4x. Then 2 times negative 2 would give us negative 4. Then what do? The two equations will then be subtracted. How do you then subtract? We will have first, let's start with the y's. If the two y's are 2y minus 2y should disappear. In other words, they will cancel out. Taking us to the x, what do we have here? Negative 3x minus negative 4x is equal to, what is the number we are having here? 12 minus negative 4. So what will we have there? This will then become negative 3x. A negative and a negative should give us a positive 4x. And these two negatives will again give us a positive 4. Negative 3x plus 4x should give us a positive x. And 12 plus 4 should give us 16. Once you have the value of x, the value of y will be obtained by substitution. So I'll take the 16, then substitute in either this equation or this equation. Allow me to go for the lower one because it's easy to work with it. So I'll have y minus 2x is equal to negative 2. But in the place of the x, I will now substitute 16 is equal to negative 2. So this will be y. Negative 2 times 16 will give us negative 32 is equal to negative 2. The 32 will then cross over to the other side of the equal sign, giving us y is equal to negative 2 plus 32. And negative 2 plus 32 will give us 30. Therefore, what will then become the coordinate of P? Do you remember? We got the x somewhere here as 16. And we got the value of y as 30. That becomes the point of intersection. That is all for today. I will request you to do more and more practice to perfect your skills. Have a nice time.